We have docked into the magical land of Sydney in Australia, and it's about a 9-hour drive from where I usually do my parts hunts, where I'm located, and I'm collaborating with another YouTuber, Designs by Afar, for a different project and a different video. But while I'm down here, I thought I might as well check out what the market's like, see what different places around the world, or at least in Australia, are going through in terms of used PC parts and the prices they're experiencing. So we're just gonna jump in the Tech Yesmobile and see what deals we can find while we're down here. Let's get it on. But also make sure you get those used price performance parts hunting capes on. Let's see what we can find. If you want to get yourself a cheap, legit Windows 10 Pro key license, then today's video sponsor SCD Keys has you covered. For as little as $14, when you use that coupon code BFTYC, you can get Windows activated right now. Links in the description below. So pulling up some fresh deals here on good old Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace shows us that the market, at least from what I'm seeing preliminary here, is very similar to where I'm at in the Gold Coast, and that is graphics cards right now are pretty much overpriced everywhere, though you can find some decent deals amongst the mix. You've just, of course, got to be quick when something decent comes up. For instance, on Facebook here we've found there's a 1660 that they wanted 300 Aussie, and I put in an offer of 250. They said, look, if you come at 270, you can have it. And given the pricing, right, this is the funny thing that I'm finding, is it looks like a lot of the GPU prices, both used and some of the sort of newer used stuff, like 1660s and also RTX 2060s, all that stuff is pretty much coming in at pre-RTX 3000 series pricing now due to COVID. So be prepared to pay a bit more for graphics cards if you do indeed want to build a gaming PC right now. Also, what I found on Facebook was a 32GB kit of 3200 megahertz CL16 RGB memory. They wanted 200 Aussie. I put in an offer of 190 because I actually always need RGB memory, especially DDR4 stuff. And if it's over 3000 megahertz and I can save even 20% under retail, then I'm getting a pretty good deal. So they messaged me back already, said that they'll accept that, come pick it up anytime. So out of Facebook, it looks like we've already potentially scored 2 deals. Of course, you never get the deal until you actually pick it up. And of course, being in a whole new area where I don't know literally any of the suburbs, I'm Google Mapsing all the suburbs when I don't know where they are roughly to try and map out some deals. But moving over to Gumtree, I actually found a heap of different deals here that are looking very promising. First of all, there was a GTX 1050. They said 100, I offered $80, and I'll put the US pricing up on the screen for you guys too to give an idea of worldwide pricing. Waiting for them to get back to me. We've got a GTX 780 Ti. They wanted 150, I offered it 130. And then there's a GTX 770, I offered it 70, they were asking 100. Then there's a 780 Ti, I again offered 130 for this GPU. And then there was an old time favorite, the GTX 645DE, which is the same as the 650, just it was the OEM model. And I've covered this one in the past. I put down 30 Aussie on this. Because these graphics cards go great in those systems where people just want to play popular multiplayer titles and they don't care too much about getting maxed graphic detail, these cards do very well. And then there's another one here where there's 2 GTX 670s. I offered 110 for both of them. So that brings it at 55 each a pop. They've actually already messaged me back saying, yep, that sounds good. When can you pick it up? So I'm gonna message that back and see if we can get that. Then we're looking at an RTX 2060 for 500 asking, but I dropped in an offer of 400. We'll see what they say there. And then there was an i7-4770 CPU, motherboard, and RAM combo. And because it had 16 gigabytes of RAM, I offered them 160, and that's from an asking price of 220. Now, there was a Ryzen 3 3100. I always love getting these, especially if they're coming under retail. I offered them 120 Aussie for that, waiting on them to get back to me. Then there was a Ryzen 5 1600 CPU plus the stock cooler, and offered 100 from 150 asking. So with that aside, I'm gonna jump in the Yesmobile and see if we can actually start picking up some of these deals, and let's go on a little bit of a journey interstate. So we're now in Sydney in a place called Crow's Nest, and we just picked up our first deal, 2 GTX 670s, $55 each. Well, it was 110 Aussie for the total. And I gotta say, some of the deals got back to me, like the GTX 1050, they said they wanted $90. I just said, well, I'll give you 80 cash, I'll come pick it up now. They said no. And then the motherboard, the combo, the i7, the 16 gig of RAM, they said they wanted 200, and I just said 160. Like, I'm sticking firm to my prices here because a deal is a deal. You don't want to get ripped off, especially when the rip-offening, I'm gonna say the rip-offening, is only really happening on graphics cards. Not really other parts like RAM, SSDs, and CPUs and motherboards. That stuff's still relatively fine, except for, of course, the new Ryzen 5000 series, which that's because of the TSMC drama and now we've got the car manufacturers involved. But still, when you're looking at like even a 14 nanometer Intel, let's hold that to spec and standard and get ourselves a deal on an i3 10100F for cheap. That should be our baseline and our borderline, so we're sticking to that. And of course, that's new. So it's like, hey, just because we're interstate, it doesn't mean I'm gonna get ripped off. I'll go get ripped off on the Gold Coast. The next deal I ended up picking up came unexpectedly out of nowhere, which is gonna give me a pretense to how to operate in Sydney. If you guys are in New South Wales, Sydney, then after this deal, we'll explain what we got here. I think there's a trend that I'm already seeing breaking out here. And basically, this deal was a 4th gen Lenovo system, a wireless mechanical Logitech keyboard and mouse, and a steering wheel, and they were asking around 200 for it. I offered 150. They just wanted to clean it out today. And so we scored this, which is a lot of gear for 150 Aussie. Now, the thing is, what I'm noticing is deals come up quickly. And so you can literally sit on, in an area like this, you can sit on this place because there's this big population in Sydney. You probably just sit on this marketplace or Gumtree and refresh deals, and you might be able to come up on something. That's if you're really desperate to get the best deals available. You can sit on there, refresh, hit F5, and be on that. If a really good deal comes up, you can swoop it up really quickly. That's what I'm finding, and that's sort of like, if you want to get deals like we just got now, you can really hit them up really quickly. Now, another thing is too, you're probably like, well, it's getting dark. Didn't you start this parts hunt earlier in the day? And it's like, yeah, I did, but I do have to see a lot of my family while I'm down here in Sydney because I haven't seen them for a few years. So I'm sort of mixing a whole collaboration in with another YouTuber that's Designs by IFR. I'm also mixing in family visits, and then now we're mixing in the stuff that you guys love to see, and that's the parts hunt. So let's continue on and see what else we got lined up here, where I think 32 gigabytes of RAM is the next deal that we're gonna go pick up. And picking up the third deal was pretty close to the previous deal. We got the 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RGB memory, 3200 megahertz. And of course, when you get a deal like that, it's not like a great deal. Of course, I'm not getting half price, but this stuff I would need to buy it brand new from retail anyway. And that's about 250 bucks for this thing. So I'm saving 60 bucks if I do a higher end build with 32 gigabytes of DDR4. So save myself a smooth 60 that I could potentially make in a gaming PC later. And that's the thing about going for a shave. If you shave 60 off here, you shave 50 off there, that's all adding up to your total profits when it comes to flipping a gaming PC. But what I'm gonna do right about now is head back to the base station, and then we go back to the base station. We're gonna see what deals are popping around there, because one thing about Sydney is it's a huge area. So there's always deals coming up all the time. So hopefully we find something else. So on the way home, we saw a deal, and it's for a GTX 970, and they say in the ad they got a power supply with a 550 watt Corsair power supply. And I'm like, okay, I'll offer them 150 cash, pick it up now. They're like, yep, get to the deal. And I'm like, okay, does it work? And I'm ready to meet them, and we're in a car park right now. And then they say, oh, already sold the power supply. I'm just saying to myself, why didn't you mention that in the ad? And then they're like, oh, 150 for just the card's fare. I'm thinking to myself, well, no, it's not. So I'll pay you, like I said to them, I'll pay you 120, and they should give it to me for 100 for messing me around. But yeah, they just said, no, sorry, not going any lower than 150. Well, it's like, update the ad to not have the power supply in there as well. That's the whole reason I put down the bid and went to pick it up. And the good thing is it's not too far away from where we just picked up the last deal. So I guess you just gotta be careful, like I mean, really confirming what's in the ad before you go to pick up the ad. Luckily it was only a 5-minute drive, but still, if you're selling something, like, and you're gonna have an ad there and you agree to the price on what's in the ad, then when you get to the deal, you take away something that's in the ad. Oh. Anyway guys, as you know, SHI7 happens. And here we are at day 2 of this parts hunt. And now we searched around Gumtree and Facebook this morning, and there really wasn't a whole lot that came up. I did message someone about the RTX 2060 where I threw down 400 offer, and they came back to me and they said they'd sold it on eBay for 550, but the guy was yet to pay. So they're gonna get back to me. If the guy doesn't pay, then they'll probably sell it to me locally for 400. And then there was a Ryzen 5 1600 where a guy got back to us and said that they would take 120. And though the Ryzen 5 1600 6-core at 120 isn't too bad, I'll take that. It's just barely just below that threshold. I'm willing to pay for it. So hopefully the guy gets back to us before we leave Sydney. Now here's the thing about Sydney. Came down here for a few different things, but last night I stopped filming the parts hunt because I went and saw my family. It's a very personal thing, but all I'm gonna say is, guys, is make sure you tell your loved ones, you know, that you love them, and you show them that you love them, because you don't know how long you've got left on this earth in terms of spending time with those that you love. So it was just a real, like, this whole trip's been a bit of a shock to me in other ways, but you know, you just got to keep rolling. As I said in the past so many times on the channel, you just keep rolling with the punches, and that's all you can really do. So that's what we're going to do right now with this parts hunt. We're just going to keep rolling with the punches. And speaking of a punch, we've got a 780 Ti where they offered 130 Aussie. They got back to me. They said they'd take it, and I've messaged them and waiting for them to get back. But the thing is, we've got to leave here before the afternoon. Otherwise, if I don't, I'll be getting back to the Gold Coast at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And driving late is, as fun as driving is at nighttime, driving like past 2 a.m. really starts to set in, especially if your body clock's not used to it. And so we're just gonna hopefully get some deals before we get on out of here. If not, we may have to stop halfway between the Gold Coast and Sydney, where I'm at now, in order to just relax and recover. But we'll see how we go. Who knows? Just keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. And now we're back at the Tech Yes studio after a massive drive yesterday. And it's quite a long journey, but I guess you guys want me to chime in on my thoughts on the Sydney used parts market and what I think of it. And it's definitely I'm gonna say I prefer locally where I'm at. And in fact, I prefer a lot of different countries, Japan being one of my favorites, Korea also being pretty solid as well. When it comes to Sydney, it's one of those cases of the road network, I'm gonna say, lets it down a lot. In that we were traveling around, getting all these deals, and I'm going through one place and it's toll here, $4.50, toll there, $4.50. And I guess if you don't take the toll road, then you're gonna get stuck in traffic and it's gonna take you a lot longer. So maybe if you wanted to do the Sydney parts hunts, it'd be like maybe 9 or 10 at night would be the best idea. But even then, would people want to meet up with you and do the deals at those times? Another thing is that we got ghosted as well on pretty much 2 of the 5 deals that I went to pick up. I got ghosted on one. Another was just straight up wrong, where you put in a price on an offer and then they pretty much change it right then and there when you're going to pick it up. So, I mean, definitely I'm going to say I got it better up here in Queensland. When it comes to Sydney, I think it's more of that massive city, and you just got to be on the go 24/7 constantly. And I'd say it's more localized, where you're going to be looking in a very small radius where you're searching for deals. Say, for instance, when I'm on the Gold Coast here, I search 50 kilometers is my base default. Sometimes I'll even up it to 100 kilometers. And in Sydney, I'd say you probably just want to max it out at 20 kilometers, where you just want to stick to your local area and pick up deals around there. Because outside of that, you're gonna be wasting a lot of time. People can ghost you, or then say, all right, someone else is coming to pick it up, sorry mate, and then dog you. But overall, prices in Sydney with used PC parts can be pretty good. We did pick up 3 awesome deals. I'll put that tally up on the screen. But before I get on out of here, there is one good deal that I've picked up locally, and we're gonna go score that right now. That's a 10400 for 150 Aussie dollars. That is good to be back in my hometown. So we're gonna go cop that right now. And before we do, we got the question of the day here, which comes from Algorn Dienza, and they ask 10% more performance than the 2060. Some brands are charging $500 off the rip. No thanks, hard pass. Even at $350, this is the worst value cost NVIDIA card in 3 generations. I keep seeing reviewers giving props to this card, and it boggles my mind. I think the mining craze has broken some of these people's minds, or their money, all mostly shills. So this comment here really makes me happy. I like the fact that you guys are starting to see there's a hard pass. When NVIDIA and the retailers and everyone want to charge more money for these cards, just let them sit on the shelves. And that's what we're seeing here in Australia. These cards have come out, the 3060s, and they're charging way too much. Like, I didn't think they'd want to charge 900 Aussie dollars plus for a 3060. I mean, come on, the 3060 Ti was $700 Aussie. 3060 Ti, when it came out in Australia, I was like, wow, that's a pretty good price. I was recommending it to people when it first came out in Australia. And then the 3060 Ti went up to 1,000 plus Aussie dollars. Now this 3060, there's kind of, I think a lot of retailers especially are banking on the fact that there's this massive demand and people will just blatantly, easily, and happily get ripped off at those prices. And it's great to see that the stock is still sitting on the shelves. You guys are sticking to that hard pass when the prices just get too ridiculous. And that's good to see. And I mean, in the meantime, you can just hold out with a GTX 670 for 55 Aussie dollars until those prices get better. Because the 3060, it should be around like max 600, 650 Aussie dollars, max. That's the max you should be paying for it. Even with this crypto boom, as we saw with those performance figures, it wasn't the best performing card. It's around an RTX 2070 Super. And yet it's coming in for more than the RTX 2070 was when that was released, at least in Australia here. So absolute stupidity, I think, with these prices at the moment. And I'm glad you guys aren't falling for the BS. But also, we're gonna finish off this parts hunt right here because I got a heap of other stuff to get onto and I've got to get that deal as well. So do let us know in the comment section below, what was your favorite deal of the day? It's probably gonna be this 10400 for 150 bucks. Or it might be that Logitech kit that we got. That was really good as well. But do let us know, and this won't be the parts hunt of the month. This is just a special bonus. Parts hunt of the month is coming at the end of the month. So if you want to see that the moment it drops, stay tuned by hitting that sub bell or ringing that bell. And I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.